What's up? Welcome to the first edition of Max Major Matchup. Look, this is a little bit of a labor of love for me. Obviously, you see me on our weekly podcast here on Win the Day TV, consistently going over the games every Sunday morning with Sosa, with Prop God, and we'll be having that come back. But I did want to do a little bit of a solo episode, things that I will have our guests come on and preview the biggest game of the week, in my personal opinion. The one that I really want to pay attention to. And please do go over to Sunday morning quarterbacks because, there may be a poll if I'm conflicted to have you guys choose which game we end up previewing. But for this first one, look, this is opening night. The defending champions are dropping the banner. Yes, I am a Chiefs fan. And yes, I'm going to be selfish in choosing this one right here. But I am very fortunate that I have a very gracious guest to go ahead and preview this game with me. The Ravens at Chiefs to open up the NFL season. And really, when you think of Ravens, there's only one person I could bring on, and that's Mr. Ev Jr. Facts and Stats himself, man. How you doing, Ev?
I'm feeling great, man. It's an honor to be on here, and then you said this is your first time doing something with
Sir?
solo. So to be the first person and start a DMAX game of the weeks for the rest of the season, it's an honor. It's a blessing, bro. I'm excited to talk Ravens and Chiefs football.
Yes, sir. Look, I'm happy to have you on. Like I said, first thing I thought of, Ravens had to have you on to preview this. We've had a lot of good conversations about football over the kind of year and a half now that I feel like we've been talking about it. And
Yeah,
the fact that now we have this opening night game coming off the AFC Championship, it's a great way to get this 2024 season started for sure, man. I know you're excited to have football back, and we'll be talking about it moving forward, but for this specific matchup, just want to kind of give you guys a rundown of what the show is going to be like. It'll change throughout the season as far as the introduction part of it, but the meat of the show is going to be the matchup. The Chiefs offense versus the Ravens defense, the Ravens offense versus the Chiefs defense. And for this opening show, we're going to do a little bit of offseason review for each of these teams and then talk about, kind of the major storyline, which will be a feature every week. Which I feel like is important because during the NFL season, it's week to week league and those storylines are really what drive the fan interest from that standpoint. So I'm gonna have you go ahead on first and lead us off, Ev. Talk to me a little bit about the Ravens off-season review. Hit the highlights, the things that you feel like are key changes coming off of a really what was a great season, number one seed. I mean, obviously, having home field advantage throughout the playoffs, disappointing end, but still a Lamar Jackson MVP season, and how you guys feel like you've changed, evolved, and are ready to go after it again to hopefully host the Lombardi Trophy.
yeah. Whenever Lamar Jackson's your quarterback, you got to be confident going into every single game and every season. So I'm repping my Lamar Jackson jersey. 13-4 last year, home field advantage. The Chiefs came to our house, won a tough fought game. We'll get to that in a second. But as far as like our offseason and where we stand right now, still super duper confident in the team. Two of our key additions, I'll start with the losses. A couple of our losses to some Patrick Queen, Geno Stone, Clowney. I'm glad that he was able to uh, refix his career, allow him to get another one more good payday from Carolina. Could be another one. We'll see. Um, so Clowney, Patrick Queen, and Geno are the main three. And then when you look at guys that we brought in, mainly really just two. Derrick Henry and Eddie Jackson, far as free agency. We'll start there. And then when we look at the draft, personally, I'm a fan of it. I like Nate Wiggins out of Clemson coming in and being a key guy. They said out of training camp, we're banking on him heavy and early this year. So he's going to be a key guy in our cornerback room. Um, Outside of him, we drafted Roger in the second round, offensive tackle out of Washington. Another much needed guy up front. Our O line is rather young. Lamar Jackson spoke to that literally within training camp as well and throughout our preseason games. But when you look at the biggest question mark on the team still remains. One thing that I can say is a bright spot, though. Mark Andrews obviously had a hip tackle last year. Wasn't really 100% healthy in that Chiefs AFC Championship game, but he gave it a go. Wasn't density to field too much, but that allowed us to see what Isaiah Likely can be as a number one tight end on our team, or just a focal point in our offense. So Isaiah Likely thrived to close the year out with Lamar Jackson. So now you look at the loss of Odell too. I'm sorry. You now look at the wide receiver room where we lost Odell, and we re-signed Nelson Aguilar. We extended Rashad Bateman. We now have Nelson, Rashad, Zay Flowers. Wallace is still in the room. Um, freaking Devontae is a draft pick. Hasn't really been looking too good in training camp and preseason. So probably not
Yeah.
gonna see much of him this year. But overall, man, I'm excited, man. Obviously, I wish the wide receiver room could be a little stronger. Probably a reliable threat on the outside that can win often on any single down. We're hoping Rashad Bateman can be that. We're hoping Zeke can extend and make plays. But other than that, I'm not really too confident in the wide receiver room. But all in all, the overall team, to get a guy like Derrick Henry, let's start there, who had a lot of success against the Chiefs in his career. Yeah, same face, new place, man. Derrick Henry is now a Baltimore Raven. He spoke literally yesterday, or yeah, it was yesterday, how he watched the AFC Championship game and he was imagining himself being a Raven because he said that he was supposed to, or he thought he was going to get traded to the Ravens at the deadline. Obviously, it didn't happen. We thought the same thing too. And new face, new place. I mean, same face, new place. He's now in Baltimore. So looking forward to the matchup. He gets it bright and early this Thursday against the Chiefs, man. So that's one of the things that I'm super, super duper happy about. Whenever you can land a guy like Derrick Henry, maybe we won't run the ball 6 times in the AFC Championship with our running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I wanted to highlight Derrick Henry because I love the graphic. They used to do that old sports and same face, new place, and I wanted to bring that over here. But Derrick Henry is the centerpiece of the Ravens, entire offseason. His dynamicism out of the backfield has been well documented. He's all pro for a reason. Now he comes to you guys and to give you guys that added physical element to go with all of the agility and speed that Lamar Jackson comes in the quarterback run game as well. That's an added layer for the defense to have to deal with. And I understand why you guys went out and brought him in, and it sounds like he's extremely excited to be there. So that's going to be a challenge for us to have to deal with, certainly in opening night from that perspective. So on our end, as far as the Chiefs offseason review, coming off of another Lombardi Trophy, fortunately, had a lot of partying, a lot of good fun as a result of that. We did, have to remake our wide receiver room first and foremost. We did go out, sign Hollywood Brown to add to it. Unfortunately, Hollywood Brown's not going to be in this game, given he suffered a little bit of a shoulder issue, a similar injury that Tyreek Hill actually did on the first preseason snap of the game, or I think it was like a third down. And so he's going to miss this game, but we'll have him back, and I'm excited to get him implemented into the offense. And also added Xavier Worthy out of Texas, speedster, first-round pick who we traded up to get. And he will bring, again, that added element of competent wide receiver play, but also the speed element that we were really missing, the ability to threaten down the field last year, which is important in the wide receiver room. Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU. He's going to be our starting left tackle. He really took over the job during OTAs and held it throughout training camp. Fortunate to bring him in, an extremely athletic guy, still raw because he is young, but putting him next to Joe Tooney, next to Creed Humphrey, next to Trey Smith along that offensive line, I'm confident in what they've been able to do to coach him up and get him ready from that perspective. The defense was largely the same outside of our major loss. L'Jarius Sneed obviously tagged and traded him away to Tennessee for a future third-round pick. And shout out to L'Jarius Sneed, glad that he got paid in Tennessee and got his generational wealth secured for sure. And we were able to retain Chris Jones, which is the major centerpiece of our defense. That's always going to be, at this point, the best defensive tackle in all of football, an all-pro, a difference maker, and a guy that always, brings a pass rush and a physicality to the interior of our defense that we need, that we basically build the entire defense out of. So I'm happy, kind of with our offseason where we stand. Question marks still, remain as far as what Kingsley is going to get us at the left tackle position. Obviously, what a cornerback two, situation is going to look like between Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, and Najee Johnson. We'll see what ends up happening from that perspective. I think all those guys are going to end up getting a look as well. So moving on to a kind of secondary aspect of it that, again, I like to hit on as far as the storylines are concerned. We have, talked about a lot, Patrick Mahomes, his accomplishments, MVPs, things of that nature in this league. And he's put himself essentially on a pedestal that is above pretty much every other quarterback, or you could say even player, in the National Football League right now. Lamar Jackson is one of those guys, in my opinion, that I label an alien, who I say would be considered the best player in football if it wasn't for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, because of the superhuman things that he's able to do and his ability really to bring high level value, throughout the entirety of a football game. From your perspective, and obviously given the fact that Lamar has had the regular season success from the wins perspective, has secured the multiple time MVPs that he has, this opening night necessarily is not going to rewrite the history of his legacy, but being able to come in here opening night and spoiling the Chiefs banner is a nice thing. But talk to me about, as a Ravens fan, and obviously, basically, I think a year and a half ago, this topic, which Lamar Jackson had, ultimately requested a trade, and we see all the saga that ended up leading to. Talk to me about Lamar Jackson's legacy for the Baltimore Ravens, and how you guys kind of view him in your eyes.
Uh, I haven't liked the player in Baltimore this much since Ed Reed. Um, I love Ray Lewis, but I was an Ed Reed more guy. I just like safeties more than any position on the defensive side. So I haven't loved the guy in Baltimore this much since Ed Reed. That's the fact. Let's start there. Um, let's start about the journey. Let's start the journey. I mean, hell of a career in Louisville. A lot of question marks as far as his ability to throw the football, to be a quarterback in the NFL. Obviously led to him slipping to the end of the draft. By the grace of God, we worked our phones, we traded back up to land Lamar Jackson. And
Shout out to Ozzy. Gotta give that man
many
credit.
Ravens fans will tell you, yeah, for sure. Shout out to Ozzy. Many Ravens fans will tell you, along with myself, it wasn't his time, but it was his time. It was clear as day time apart from Joe Flacco. Phenomenal Super Bowl run, gave him a big contract post Super Bowl. Um, a lot of up and downs as far as teams after that, really, years, I should say. He ended up getting hurt. Lamar Jackson slid into the starting role, hit the scene pretty well. I think he went 6-1 to close the year out. Ended up losing to the Chargers in the playoffs. But we also beat the Chargers like a couple of weeks prior to that game. So they had us figured out a little bit. I remember vividly, they were literally booing Lamar when Joe Flacco to get in. And John Harbaugh stuck with him. John Harbaugh stuck with him for the rest of that game. The game wasn't pretty at all. But the game was not pretty at all for Lamar Jackson. Stuck with him. I mean, now fast forward to 2024, two-time MVP, has a will to win like no other. 58-19 career record as a starter, like 18-1 or 17-1 against the NFC. So he's dominating the opposite conference. Obviously, you can speak to the playoff record, which is 2-4. But again, the Chargers game, I really don't really include that. But either way, still negative player record here nor there, however you spin it. But I think we're all blessed and we're all thankful to have a guy like Lamar Jackson. And then to speak to the trade rumors and even the request, I was one of the few, like I never thought that, he was going to get traded, and also wondered if a deal was going to happen on that. Like I stayed fully confident in the Ravens and Lamar being able to work a deal and get him in one more for the next 5-6 years, however long he's going to be here now. And when the request happened, I'm like, damn, this is crazy. But I still had some faith, and thank God I literally had a dream about it. So thank God it happened. But just him and his legacy, man. I mean, he's missing one thing and one thing only. And he spoke to it this year. He keeps speaking to it every single year. And I really believe it's going to happen. Like the Super Bowl's going to come back to Baltimore. Two-time MVP, broke the rushing yards that Michael Vick had, broke that record, led the league in passing touchdown before, and ranked as the NFL top 100 player in 2020. This past season, number 2. So, I mean, he's respected by his peers. He's respected amongst everybody around the league. Two-time first-team All-Pro. I mean, what's left? Is the only thing that's left is literally, him winning that Super Bowl championship and also performing well in the playoffs every single game. This past Texans game was a good game. Wasn't mad at it. I think he counted for overall 4 touchdowns off top of my head, 3 or 4. But he had a good game overall. I think we took care of business against the Texans fairly easy, especially in the second half. But obviously clean up the playoff record, make that deep postseason run, but play well while doing so. He didn't play his best game against the Chiefs' AFC Championship. But overall, man, when you look at his career, I mean, a 2-time MVP, 2-time first-team All-Pro, led the league in touchdown passes, broke a rushing record, one of the most winningest quarterbacks since he became a starter. It's phenomenal. So he's on a phenomenal trajectory. He's only 27 years old, I believe. He shed some weight this year to slim himself back up to be able to be more elusive, run faster, break more tackles, like he said, or allow guys to not catch him. So, I mean, I love it, bro. I'm excited. I think all Ravens fans love Lamar Jackson. We wouldn't trade for nobody in the world. I stand on that.
Yeah, look, and I've said the same about Bills fans. I completely understand it, or Bengals fans as well. Like, you guys have premier quarterbacks that kind of fit the identity of your team. the identity of
Right.
your city, and it feels like kind of have molded their identities around them. And I think when you get one of those quarterbacks, that is what it feels like. That's what it's felt like since Mahomes came to Kansas City, and he certainly left his print. But when you're talking about Lamar Jackson, a guy that I loved at Louisville, I thought was criminally underrated. Talking about going into the draft, and I think there is in some circles he's underrated because the Athletic did their NFL tiers, and he was considered a second tier quarterback below guys like Burrow and Allen. And I don't get it. I think that he should be in the same tier as those guys. He deserves to
Yeah.
be. He's proven it. He has multiple MVPs for a reason because he is great. But to your point, it is that last piece of can you put together that playoff run that stamps you with the Lombardi Trophy as an all-timer? And when you talk about the quarterback position, individual greatness is one thing, but you had to have the team success to be looked at in those eyes as an all-timer. And so this is obviously the start of Lamar trying to climb that mountain once again. So along those lines, now we can go ahead and get into the actual game that we have coming up on Thursday, which I know both of us are extremely excited for. Um, we'll start by looking at kind of the Chiefs offense versus the Ravens defense. And I think it's interesting to frame this in the context of what happened, obviously, last year in the AFC Championship game, and talking a little bit about where the wide receiver upgrades are really going to improve what the Chiefs have to answer as far as the Ravens. Obviously, Ravens transition from defensive coordinator, still going to keep a similar scheme, still going to be incredibly multiple along their fronts, obviously centered around Madubuike, still going to be coming after you with multiple odd front looks because you guys can afford to. You guys added Nate Wiggins in the secondary, so a little bit added speed, but you still feel comfortable about your secondary built around Kyle Hamilton and obviously Marlon Humphrey. With that comes challenges. We want to be able to open up the field, stretch it vertically in the same way that we've always been able to stretch it horizontally to create the space for underneath guys as well. And so one of the major things for me was just looking at what you guys did on third down. Because last year when the Chiefs were in difficult situations, because of lack of speed, people either stacked the box heavily or they had no problems with having their safeties crash down late, playing a lot of single high coverage and daring the Chiefs to beat them over the top. And most often we weren't able to because we didn't have the guys to be able to do so. And, looking at, kind of like the third down cut-ups from last year, because I thought it was an interesting way to look at it. The Ravens did blitz on 4 out of 6 of second half third downs. Again, that second half in which you guys were able to hold us scoreless, I think that's an important thing to look at. You guys showing multiple people a little bit of simulated pressure, still getting in there with 5, forcing Mahomes to get the ball out of his hands. And look, we were only able to have one successful play, which was a slant route to Justin Watson in that second half on the third downs in which you guys blitzed us. But when Mahomes immediately had pressure in his face, there weren't really many answers. And the reason was because you guys were able to put a lot of people in the box. Obviously, Xavier Worthy being out there, Hollywood Brown later on in the season, but specifically for this matchup, Xavier Worthy changes the math as far as that's concerned and gives us more options and at least a little bit more danger to present to you guys on defense. So talk to me from your perspective of anything that you feel like you guys are going after just on defense to account for Xavier Worthy's speed. And how much do you still feel like you want your defense to be aggressive in trying to come after Patrick Mahomes on those key downs and not, just sitting back and playing coverage instead, as, kind of didn't work, I guess, as you see in this last one, which was the MVS one. You guys tried to play little coverage, you only sent 4 and double guys, and we were able to get over the top there.
Yeah, man. One I tweeted about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think this is one of the best week 1 games ever. I think you hit this right on the head when you want to get Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Thursday Night Football to kick off the season. It's really hard to write a better script than that. So shout out to the guys that did that. 2, yeah, man. I mean, unfortunate game last year, but when you look at fast forward to this year, it's one thing that's on my mind. Obviously, in the Super Bowl, he caught a touchdown on him. I'm really just looking at the Kelsey and Kyle matchup because I think if we take care of business with Travis Kelsey, which is not easy for nobody, if we take care of business with Travis Kelsey with Kyle Hamilton, that makes everything else so much easier. One, I'm a big fan of Rashee Rice. I think he's a good wide receiver. He's going to be great for the Chiefs this year. But I also do want to say Marlon been dealing with a lot of injuries the past couple of years. He even shed 15 to 20 pounds this offseason. So he's looking ready to go this year. He said he thought he was getting a call this offseason to get cut, but that wasn't the case. He said that made him want to lock in and focus, and get back there. So I expect him to take a lot of rights this game. You're going to see Marlon Humphrey on a lot of Rasheed Rice. I do want to give credit to my other CB2, Brandon Stevens. At times last year, or probably throughout the whole year, many Ravens fans will probably say he's better than Marlo, period, because of Marlo's inability to perform at the level that we know he could. All pro Marlo, but I like to call him. As far as Xavier Worthy, I love the matchup with Nate Wiggins. Again, it's only preseason football, but I like what Nate showed me. He showed the ability to cover, he showed his speed, and he showed to be able to contain and make up ground if need be. I think that's going to be a fun, exciting matchup. I would assume that you will see Mahomes probably take a deep shot for Worthy and Wiggins if that is the matchup. Interested to see how it goes. As far as everything else, I'm gonna make a little funny comparison because I've been a Ravens fan for 20 plus years, so I haven't seen everything. But throughout my time as a Ravens fan, and why I think we should continue to blitz Mahomes, because it's similar to Big Ben. Let me just walk with me. When you give Big Ben time in the pocket, he always moves around and found a wide receiver every single time, whether that was MB, whether that was AB, whether that was Randall L, whoever the case may be, whether that was obviously Hines Ward,
That's
whoever,
Ward, yeah.
Heath Miller, like he always moves around in the pocket and finds somebody when it's not that much pressure on him, right? If he's behind a good line and he can scan the field and wait for a guy to break down or a coverage to break down, he can do it. Mahomes is the same damn way. Mahomes also can throw with pressure coming. So I think you have to pressure quarterbacks like that to try to make them uncomfortable. Now, it's very rare that you'll see Mahomes be uncomfortable. But as you see in some of the clips that we showed, he either threw the ball out really fast or avoided the sack by getting the ball out of his hand. So I think we have to continue with that same scheme. I do like Trenton Simpson stepping in and being a starting linebacker alongside Roquan, another speedy guy that can get to the backfield. Matabuke, phenomenal season last year. How good can Owe be? We've seen Owe have one big eye-popping play against the Chiefs where he forced that fumble and led us to win the game. Ojabo, Ojabo, Owe, Van Noy, Pierce, Matabuke, Roquan, Simpson. All these guys got to create havoc, so we're not relying on the secondary too much, which I don't mind relying on them at all. I'm confident in Marcus, Kyle, Marlo, Stevens, and Nate. I love that, and even Eddie Jackson when he's on the field. I love that secondary room. It's really just the matchup between Kyle and Kelsey. How well can Kyle throughout the game play good defense on Travis Kelsey, whether that's 1st and 10, whether that's 3rd and 5, whether that's 3rd and long. We know Kelsey is the go-to guy for Mahomes, even with sharing the field with Rice, eventually Hollywood, and Worthy. So limit Kelsey. I don't really have any concerns anywhere else. I like how Rice works in the slot or he works short field, wherever. I do think Worthy can extend plays and be a valuable deep threat for those guys. But I like the Nate Wiggins and Worthy cross matchup. So I don't really have any concerns there. It's really just Travis Kelsey and Kyle Hamilton for me.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned obviously Simpson stepping into Patrick Queen's role there at the linebacker spot. But I think the key for you guys is simply to be multiple, to allow not only Kyle Hamilton to be on Travis Kelsey at times, but also to put two on Kelsey and allow Kyle Hamilton to roam as well, which we know he's an incredibly smart player and somebody that's been given the freedom, which is incredible for a rookie, to give him the freedom to change up his assignment accordingly when he feels like those football instincts kink in. The way that you guys can be multiple up front. And I think even though Mike has moved on to Seattle, that is something that's probably going to carry over. You guys being able to show different blitz packages, being able to use certain pressures. And look, coming after Kingsley, who is a rookie, who's starting at left tackle, trying to confuse that man into what he's seeing. And again, your overall point, being able to make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable. It's a very difficult thing to do, but it is the way to derail the offense, specifically in those difficult passing downs as well. And look, it's going to be fascinating. I know the Chiefs are going to try and go deep early on because they have emphasized that the entirety of training camp. As you know, I was up there at St. Joe. They have emphasized that from day one. They have emphasized the fact that Xavier Worthy has gotten many targets during preseason to make sure that he's ready for those times. They want to be able to bring the vertical aspect back into this offense so that they can open up the things underneath as well. And that, we'll see if that ends up, coming to fruition. But I know that they're going to test that secondary for sure. And that's going to be a fun matchup because you guys are a fast, a physical, and a multiple defense. And that's the way that I think defense is always best to be played, from
Yeah.
that perspective.
Yep.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, I say yep. I completely agree. I was going to agree with everything that you said. It's gonna be fun, bro. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. So flipping side, specifically talking about the Ravens offense versus the Chiefs defense. Speaking of, fast, physical, and multiple defenses, of course, Steve Spagnuolo always coordinates his defense to play in that certain way as well. You spoke obviously about some concerns about the secondary receiving options, but expecting as they are likely to step up. You expect to see multiple tight end sets with a healthy Mark Andrews, which shout out to Mark Andrews. Fortunately, he had a car crash earlier in the offseason, but
Yeah.
he didn't have any issues as far as that was concerned. So talking about the ability to have those multiple tight ends out there, using Derrick Henry and the physicality of his run game to pair with what Lamar Jackson gives you as far as a numbers advantage. I was very impressed by what our linebackers were able to do versus the run versus you guys in the AFC Championship game. Derrick Henry is a different level of challenge, of course. When you guys are on offense, when the Ravens are on offense, what are you watching for versus our defense? And knowing the challenges that we face or represent, I should say, Trent McDuffie, Chris Jones, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Obviously, Chris is a man in the middle. Let's start there. Snead and McDuffie were the phenomenal quarterback pairing, cornerback pairing. Not at Snead obviously is not there. I think that's somewhere we can sort of kind of take a shot at more comfortably and put it like that. Um, Rashad Bateman. This is a guy that can oppose to be a big wide receiver for you guys. And even Zay Flowers, I think Zay Flowers had a good game. Well, not think he had a good game in the AFC Championship. Obviously, a big fumble. I don't see why he wouldn't replicate having a good game again. He's the clear cut number one option. Him and Lamar, we spoke to this. Him and Lamar are likely like this now. Super duper buddies. What I'm watching for in this game is how do you guys one guard the two tight end sets, and who will be the man on Mark Andrews the whole game, and then who will be checking Likely, because I think Likely is a tough cover for non corners. If you ask me, him and Mark, both of you, put it like that, for non corners. So I expect a lot of Zay, Mark. Let me fix that. Likely, Mark, Bateman, and Zay. I had the four pass catchers with Derrick Henry. I woke up today on Twitter and I seen that Henry rushed over 100 yards 4 times against the Chiefs, all 4 times against the Chiefs. So that's something to look forward to in this game as well. He's not behind one of the strongest O lines, but he's playing in the backfield with one of the more dual threat quarterback the game has ever seen. So I have to prepare for Derrick, and you have to prepare for Lamar. So I'm expecting Derrick Henry to have another good game in this one, bro. I have two things I love in this game that I will announce later, but I'm expecting Derrick Henry to have a good game in this game. And then really how you guys guard our tight ends. And I think Zay Flowers will get off. I think Zay Flowers will be used in more screen action. I think Zay Flowers will be used all over the field. He'll be a guy. He'll be the go-to guy in offense, without a doubt. So I really just want to see how you guys cover our two tight ends and who's on our outside guys for the whole entire time. And do you guys stack the box a lot? Would you guys stack the box a lot with probably trusting your secondary against our weaker wide receiver options? So that's what I'm looking forward to most this game.
Yeah, look, there was
And Chris
a
Jones
lot.
and Chris Jones might have a lot of success. Let me put it like that. Chris Jones might have a lot of success in this game against our line, bro. So that's all I got to say.
No, absolutely. Look, and I think you lay it out very well because the matchup question marks are going to be the thing that is going to be, most watched. Isaiah Likely, like you said, athletic tight end option. He's a guy that
Yeah,
can give you problems if you put a linebacker or the wrong safety on him. Justin Reed
yeah,
is a guy that hasn't played throughout the entirety of this preseason yet. We haven't seen him out there on the field. He's been practicing for the last, week and a half now. Seems like he's good to go for the game. So we'll see how that works out. But it's going to be fascinating for me because the way in which we kind of were able to stifle some of those, specifically designed runs to the running back in the first, in the AFC Championship game, I should say, was by having three linebackers on the field and putting eight in the box. And this is a very good example of that. You guys obviously have a card next to Likely here and what is essentially a 12 personnel set. But Nick Bolton, Leo Chanel, Drew Tranquil, all three of those linebackers had a spectacular game as far as I was concerned. We got great work from Mike Pennell next to Chris Jones and, of course, Mike Dana and George Karlaftis on the outside. And unfortunately, Charles Omenihu who got hurt after the first half of this game, as you see him in there. But this was a game about being able to stack the box against specifically those 12 personnel sets. I think that we're going to trust, our cornerbacks against specifically, Rashad Bateman, and
Yeah.
we'll see what ends up happening. The other thing about it is in that passing game matchup, is Trent McDuffie going to end up following Zay Flowers? Is it going to be a one-on-one type of situation for the entirety of the game? That will be fascinating. But Mark Andrews presents a lot of problems as far as that's concerned because he is a good blocker. Isaiah Likely, incredibly athletic as a tight end. You can get into situations in which those gaps open up if it's a little bit of a power run game. And you can get a Gus Edwards, which is not going to be Gus Edwards this time. It would be Derrick Henry running through an alley and presenting a really big game in it. And so that's going to be the question mark of how we're able to deal with the physicality up front. I think that, in my opinion, we're going to have to win as far as our Chiefs defense is concerned in the trenches versus your offensive line. Obviously, you guys are young. This is, first time playing, real football game. This is going to be difficult to deal with the Chris Jones of the world, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, obviously Tershawn Warren coming back as well. Those guys are going to be key up front to clog up those gaps and then also get after Lamar Jackson on the downs in which we can, and not allow you guys to stay ahead of the sticks and continue to run Derrick Henry 30, 40 times, as we know that he's used to and able to, and then also having Lamar Jackson with his threat off of that. So that's going to be the major key to me, being able to have another good linebacker game, being able to get you guys behind the sticks and get into more traditional passing downs to where that heavy personnel with those multiple tight ends doesn't present as many different matchup mismatches that could be presented with our linebackers on the field as well. Because as much as I do love Nick Bolton and Leo Chanel, they're not as good as cover linebackers. Drew Tranquil is a good cover linebacker, but there are ways in which you can manipulate the defense to get after him. So that's the thing that I'm watching as far as our linebacker play is concerned. But we have to win in the trenches if we're going to dictate the game to the Ravens offensive line as well. Um, Anything else as far as your Ravens offense you're looking at? Which do you feel like as far as your new offensive lineman? I think is Falele going to end up starting for you guys at the
That's what it's
guard
seeming
position?
like. Yeah, that's what
Seems
it's
like it.
seeming
Okay.
like. Stanley, Roger, Tyler, Falele, and I believe Patrick. So that's what it looked like it's going to seem like what it's going to be.
Mhm.
Again, obviously it's young, so I'm not really too. Did I miss Ant? I think uh, did I say Andrew? I'll probably say that wrong. Stanley, Andrew, Tyler. No, I said that right. Yeah, I said that right.
Yeah.
Um, so that's look like what it's going to be. Again, no, I think that's it, man. It's the first game we're going to get real dogs. I think on the other side. So how they're going to hold up? Because if they're not blocking well, if they're not performing well, Lamar will get on them. I like that Lamar stepping more to a leadership role for this whole entire team, and Roquan came in as an instant leader as well, and Kyle Hamilton stepping up in that department. So, um, really, man, Rashad, it's your time. I just got to say that to Rashad Bateman. It's your time. Uh, Lamar came out yesterday. A lot of things is coming out yesterday. Lamar came out yesterday and said he expects Rashad to have a big year. Expect Rashad to have a great year. So whenever you have that confidence from your quarterback, it's time for you to act on it now. Odell was not here. There's no question marks. You will be on the field a lot way more than you were on the field last year. And plus, you're healthy more than ever. So, Rashad, it's your time. That's what I got.
Yep,
Rashad, it's your
absolutely.
time.
He's going to be challenged to make a few plays because at the end of the day, we are going to be focused on Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers in those moments as far as receiving options. So he's going to have matchups that if he's going to be able to get, beat coverage one-on-one, and he's a guy that I did like coming out of Minnesota. It hasn't come to fruition yet for him in Baltimore. If he can win
Yeah.
those matchups, that'll go a long way for you guys to being able to get out of those difficult situations we want to put you in. But look, it is a young offensive line. We know Stanley has his issues. You guys are rotating at times. Linderbaum is a bona fide, really good center for you guys in the middle. Voorhees, I liked him, obviously, coming off of the ACL that he had last year. That's why he didn't play as much. We'll see about Falele and Roger Rosengarten as well. At Washington, who was a right tackle prospect I liked as well. So I'm fascinated to see how your trenches perform because I think this will be a good test to open up your season just in general. And look, it's a 5-man unit. They got to play on a string and be able to open up space for Derrick Henry to run, for Lamar Jackson to run, and also open up time for Lamar Jackson to find his pass catches as well. So that's a little bit about the actual X's and O's. There's nothing else here. Just to go ahead and take your pick, man. As far as X factor, best bet, and then also who you're picking in the game, man. How you kicking off opening night?
Um, I'm gonna stay here, man. And this goes into two. Rashad Bateman, X Factor. Again, he has all the confidence in the world behind him. That's the locker room, that's ownership, that's head coach, and more importantly, that's quarterback. He had some bright spots throughout his short career so far. Good game against Miami, good game against New York, a couple of good games to start his career, but obviously injuries always got the best of him. I think Rashad Bateman is a true X factor in this game. Now, as far as best bets, I have three of them, and I'm going to start with Rashad Bateman. I'm personally probably going to straight bet all these bets. Rashad Bateman over 27 and a half receiving yards. It was really hard for a guy, D-Mac just spoke to it. They're focused on Zay. They're focused on Mark, and maybe even focused on likely more than Rashad. We'll see. But obviously, we have the weaker corner checking him for the most part. He is a guy that is skilled to me. He is a guy that is a good route runner. Questionable hands, 5 drops last year, but I do think that he can perform. 27 and a half yards for a guy that's going to be on the field damn near majority of the game. That's something that I can't turn down. Another bet that I like, Derrick Henry, first half touchdown. Anytime touchdown minus 125. I think for him to get in the box in the first half is plus 200. That's something I'll look into, him and Kelsey, but that's something I'll look into as far as Derrick Henry. I like him to score. I like him to get in the end zone this game against the Chiefs. Had a lot of success against the Chiefs. I think the Ravens are coming to this game with two things on their mind. Let's get Derrick Henry comfortable and acclimated to the Ravens, and let's make sure that Rashad Bateman will be included to this offense, because this team will go as far as Lamar Jackson and Rashad chemistry and connection goes. It's already understood with him and Mark Andrews. It's already understood with him and Zay Flowers. It's already understood with him and Isaiah Likely. Now, what is it going to be with you and your wide receiver too? Derrick Henry, immediate impact. That's a focal point. Rashad Bateman, focal point. My third bet that I like, again, you spoke to Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, and all those guys not being the best cover linebackers and or safeties. Mark Andrews, I think this is a fair line. Again, our two main pass catchers are Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. They're not going to have ridiculous lines all year. They're not going to have no 80 over 80. They're not going to have over 90, nothing of that nature. 46 and a half is Mark Andrews' line for receiving yards in this game. I think that's something worth looking at. I think that's something worth taking a chance on. Me personally, I'm most likely going to straight bet all three of these. Rashad Bateman over 27 and a half. Derrick Henry first half touchdown plus 200. Mark Andrews over 46 and a half receiving yards. Somebody got to catch the ball. And I would typically say Zay Flowers, but I think he's going to have a good game anyway. So as far as pass catchers, I like Bateman at 27 and a half. I like Mark at 46 and a half. And ultimately, I'm going to go with the guys, man. I think the Ravens get the win, man. Lamar gets his second win against Patrick Mahomes. I believe we're 1-4 right now, if I'm not mistaken. 1-4 right now. We have the last regular season win. They have the last more AFC championship win. That's obviously holds more weight. They went on to win the Super Bowl. But week 1 on the road is going to be tough. Banner night, again, the Super Bowl champions. I get it. I understand. But after all, my guys, I think we're going to come back hungry. I think we're ready. And I think they all remember what some of the things that was said last year after the end of the game. Not even last year. This same exact year. 8 months ago. Guys making fun of Roquan Smith. Guys talking about Zay Flowers fumbling the ball and the inexperience. Lamar Jackson can't do this. Lamar Jackson can't do that. I know Roquan. This game means a lot to Roquan Smith. And obviously today and yesterday they downplayed the stakes of this game. It's just another game. It's just Lamar versus Mahomes. No different. But after the game, I promise you, if we win, you'll see some words for sure. So I'm going with the Ravens in a close one. We had 17-10 in the AFC Championship. This one I'm more so feeling a 27-21, 24-17 type of game with the Ravens pulling it off. Derrick Henry getting in the box. Rashad going over his line and or Mark Andrews. Those are my three best bets. That's my winner, and Rashad Bateman is my true X factor in this game. If not Rashad, obviously Kyle Hamilton. How are we going to be utilizing him? How well is he going to cover Travis Kelsey? Is he going to make plays on the ball, which I expect? Is he going to be coming off the end, forcing pressure on Mahomes? And, different ways that we can use them, different ways that we do use them. So, X factors, offense and defense, Rashad Bateman and Kyle Hamilton, and then I spoke to everything else.
Yes, sir. All right.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
I expected you to go with your guys. So I'm not going to fault you with that at all. But I'm glad that you said the X factor that you did, because I think that Kyle Hamilton for safety for you guys. I'm going to, an X factor for the Chiefs is going to be Shamari Connor. He's a rookie for us, or I should say he was a rookie for us last year. Came in, played very well, and gave us some important snaps, especially after Brian Cook unfortunately had the season-ending ankle injury. what he can provide as far as a corner hybrid safety type. He plays with a level of physicality. He can cover guys in the slot, whether it's tight ends. That's an important skill set specifically for a team that is presenting as you guys are, that wants to be in multiple tight end sets, can bring a physicality in the run game. He's going to have a key role both in coverage, maybe even, a guy coming into the slot and you got to cover a wide receiver or a tight end, and also being physical with the run game for the times in which we are in the nickel or big nickel compared to necessarily actual base defense with three linebackers out there. So he's my defensive X factor. Offensive X factor, I think that if Kingsley Suamataia has a good game, then that means the entirety of the offensive line probably has a good game. And if Mahomes has time, then I trust him to get the job done from that perspective. Now that we have better wide receivers to go with our offense. Best bets, I kind of like to do one, kind of normal one and then one a little bit of long shot. My normal one is over Rashee Rice, 60 and a half. I do think that this is an opportunity for him to get after the Ravens defense. A lot of zone coverage that it is played, obviously some pressure. He is really good at finding the quick holes in the secondary, and Mahomes will get the ball out to him. I think you're able to stretch the field a little bit vertically, open up some things. Obviously, Kelsey is going to get the primary attention as he's earned. That will open up some opportunities for Rashee Rice to have a pretty good game, certainly on opening night. And then, as I like to do, long shot, no grades, plus 1,100 to be anytime touchdown score. You want to put a little bit on there. In the red zone, we do like to do multiple tight end sets. He's somebody that defenses like to forget about is out there, and he'll end up grabbing one or two out there, throughout the season. So that would be one that I say keep an eye on. He may have a chance to get in the end zone as well. And as far as the game picks, yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs. I think that this last season in which we dropped the banner against the Lions, obviously we didn't have Chris Jones, we didn't have Travis Kelsey. We got both of those guys in the lineup, and I'm gonna trust us to get the job done. And I'm gonna be sad if I go to the game and we end up losing. So,
hey, at least you're going to the game, man. That's a phenomenal game to experience. Week 1,
yeah.
Mahomes.
Looking forward to it, man. Arrowhead's going to be rocking. Banners getting dropped, tailgating. It's going to be a great day, and certainly the best way, I should say, for the NFL season to kick off. Two guys that are spectacular at the top of their games. Two physical, fast defenses. Two well-coached teams that are going to get after it. And like you said, so two teams that have locked horns in the playoffs. Just a few short months ago, and maybe have a little bit extra spice on it. Give us some talk after the game ended that time. So once again, and also real quick, we will be keeping track of this throughout the season. So we'll have, what the guests end up picking as far as best bets. And obviously we'll do it for me as well, just to see how it ends up going. And we'll see how it goes down the line, and we'll keep track of it just because I have a little bit of fun doing that throughout the season. Yeah, for sure.
That's a great idea.
But yes. Once again, thank you, Ev, for coming by, being able to preview this first game. Like I said, awesome matchup. It's the one that I certainly wanted to preview this week. Again, make sure you guys go to Facts and Stats. Check out everything Ev is doing, man. YouTube, playback, Twitter Spaces. Facts and Stats is a marquee name, and he's going to continue to do great things. And I always love talking football with Ev, so I'm happy to have him on as well. Make sure you guys follow Sunday Morning Quarterbacks. Continue to have tons of football content going out there on Twitter throughout the entirety of the season. And we'll also probably put up a poll as far as game of the week for next week to preview as well. I am at DMacWake316 on Twitter. Make sure you guys check that out. And be sure to come back Sunday mornings on Win the Day TV on YouTube. We will continue to do those previews before the games get started on your Sunday, man. Football is back. I am extremely excited. Once again, Ev, thank you for coming by to preview this game. Hope everybody enjoys the day and enjoys the football slate, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, brother. It was an honor. It was a blessing. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Hope everybody have a great day. Peace out.